Hello folks, I hope you are all doing well. In this video, I want to show you how to play a shuffle, whether it be a blues shuffle or like a rock and roll shuffle. I'm going to show you an easy way to play that kind of riff on your ukulele. So let's dive in. Shuffles like this show up all the time in lots of different styles of music, but you might be most familiar with it in the context of like a bluesy feel, something like this. So we'll start off with C. C is nice and easy here. So to do that shuffle pattern on a C chord on ukulele, I start by playing my C chord. And I'm using my ring finger, my third finger, to play the third fret of the A string there. Now it's important because I want to be able to use another finger to play the second fret of the G. That's going to be the note that I'm changing. So when I play that C normally, that G string is open. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the second fret to get that second note. We'll start off by just playing that chord, getting comfortable with the chord, and then adding that note on the G string in there. Don't even need to worry about that rhythm, like how I'm strumming. And there are different ways that we can approach the strumming of these chords. So we'll worry about that a little bit later. Let's just go back and forth between C and then C with this extra note here. So I'll count to 4. We'll play C and hold it. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. C. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this chord right here that I'm playing is actually an A minor chord. That does have some relevance in terms of music theory. We don't really need to worry too much about that. But if understanding what chord shape you're playing helps, that's great. You'll notice when we get to the G chord a little bit later on, by adding the note that we need for that shuffle, it turns our G into an E minor chord. So again, don't worry too much about the theory behind it, but if recognizing those chord shapes helps you play these, then that's something cool to remember. Now that we're getting our bearings around that C shuffle there, our shuffle with the C chord, let's try adding a little bit more rhythm to it, right? So I want to start off with just what we call a straight rhythm. So there's no swing. It doesn't have that bluesy feel, right? So we're just gonna count in eighth notes. So I'm gonna count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're gonna alternate every beat with our regular C chord and then our adjusted C chord, or our A minor, however you want to think about it. So it'll be like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We'll do that a couple times. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Practice that as slowly as you need to, but if you speed it way up, you might recognize that kind of sound from songs like Jailhouse Rock. The Jailhouse Rock is doing something a little bit more complicated in terms of the pattern that it's playing, but you can still kind of hear that rock and roll vibe. So I'm just speeding up that same thing that we just played. If we give it a little bit of a swing, whether we think of it as like a bluesy swing or maybe like a Hawaiian swing, we are staggering our eighth notes a little bit here, right? So we're holding our quarter note, or we're holding our down strum a little bit longer, and our upstroke is going to be a little bit shorter. And we're going to kind of rush into the next downstroke. Think of it as like long, short, 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 long, short. And we can still count at the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, but we just need to make sure that we're counting with that staggered feel too, right? The 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now here we can feel a bit of blues. We might also hear a little bit of country. We could hear a little bit of more of a classical Hawaiian sound. Let's try playing that together for a little bit. I find that we can learn how to intricately count this swing feel, but if you can just internalize it and feel it and hear it and replicate it with your strumming, it's going to come a bit more quickly for you. So let's give that a try. I'm going to count us off and we'll start strumming, and just keep strumming that C to the A minor feel. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you have a bunch of PDFs in this email. And there are some tabs about the blues shuffle and just some text talking about the blues shuffle, as well as some song examples. The songs are just chords and lyrics, so you can just play them normally. You don't have to play them with any kind of special ornamentation, but you can certainly apply the shuffle to these songs. I want to start by taking a look at Hound Dog in C. So let's say you're just getting comfortable with this shuffle feel. You are just getting the C down. You don't have to apply the shuffle to every chord in the song. We could start off by just applying the shuffle to the C, and then just play the other chords however we're comfortable playing those other chords. So in C, our starting note, our vocal for our voice, is this E flat note right here. You ain't nothing but a hound dog, crying all the time. You ain't nothing but a hound dog. See, I stopped doing the shuffle. Maybe I pick it up when I go back to the C. And stop again. You ain't never caught a rabbit, and you ain't no friend of mine. So So I can just carefully throw it in where I'm comfortable. Sometimes I might be doing that shuffle rhythm when I'm not singing. So maybe there's a part where I'm singing and I'm just playing just a shuffle strum, or maybe I'm just like strumming one chord and letting everything ring out. And then when I'm not singing between lines, maybe that's when I throw in a little bit of that extra flair. If we're thinking in a little bit more of a bluesy sense, to really kind of get that that shuffle feel really accented, instead of doing these down and up strokes, I could do all down strokes. It's kind of similar to if we were playing punk rock. You know, we might be wanting to do a lot of down strokes for these attacks. It's a little bit more work for our strumming hand, but that'll allow us to get this very particular sound. Okay, so same thing, but now I'm going to do all downstrokes. So I'm going to keep that swing feel, that staggered feel, the 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but notice how I'm doing all downstrokes here, and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now what's happening when I'm doing this, I'm playing very closely. Like basically I'm just aiming for my G string. And there's gonna be a little bit of an overshoot, so I'm aiming just for the G string, but I'm playing aggressively enough that I am gonna overshoot my strum, and I'm gonna hit the C string, and sometimes I was hitting the E string as well. Whoop. So that's really focusing the sound and energy on that note that's changing, right? Gives it what we might call a more punchy sound. So that's just another way that we can approach it to get a slightly different sound. I could make my strums a little bit bigger too. But sometimes that can, those extra notes can drown out what I really want to hear, which is that change from open G to the second fret of G within the context of my C chord. So we have this pattern. We've got some ideas about how we can strum that pattern, but how do we play it for different chords? Different chord shapes are going to require different movements. So let's take a look at a bunch of them. You've got a PDF called Blues Shuffle Tab. So I'd like to take a look at that sheet, and we'll kind of go down the list of chords that we've got. We've already taken a look at C, so let's take a look at A. A is a pretty good one. I like A. If you haven't played the A chord before, we're just holding down the second fret of the G string, first fret of the C string, and then our E and A strings are open. Now the extra note that I'm going to be adding is the second fret of the E string, and I'm going to want to play that with my ring finger. My ring finger's free. It's kind of already hovering above that fret anyway on that string. So that's how I'm going to get that shuffle feel from this A chord. So for F, I've got my index finger on the first fret of the E, middle finger on second fret of the G. The C string is open in between there, and that's where I'm going to want to put my ring finger for this one. So I'm going to be adding my ring finger to the second fret of the C string for that second chord in our shuffle. So F, and then I play the second fret of the C. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and bit tricky. So we can do this a few different ways. The way that I will typically play my G chord, if I'm not thinking about it and I just jump to a G, I'm using these fingers here, where my index finger is on the 2nd fret of the C, my ring finger is on the 3rd fret of the E, and my middle finger is on the 2nd fret of the A string under there, like that. So that only leaves my pinky. And the move that I need to make is from the 2nd fret of the C string to the 4th fret of the C string. Da-da, 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 da, like that. That's requiring a lot from my pinky. It's a finger that doesn't like to do very much, so we have to kind of talk it into playing along, right? But that's the first way that I would play this chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I think that sounds really lovely. I could also play my G chord like this. I could bar the 2nd frets of the C, E, and A string with my index finger, add my 2nd finger to the 3rd fret of the E string. So I'm still holding all the same notes as this way. I'm just holding 2 of those notes with my pointer finger now. Now my ring finger is free. My pinky doesn't have to be in the mix there. Now, a lot of these choices about which chord I'm using is less about which finger I want to use or avoiding a certain finger. That might be a concern for you. If you've got something going on with one of your fingers, it just doesn't want to behave, you can find another way to play that chord or that pattern. But for me, a lot of times what it comes down to is where I'm coming from and where I'm going next. So I want to be thinking about, okay, what shape is my hand in for the previous chord? And what's going to be the fastest and most comfortable way to get to my target chord. And then I want to be thinking about the next chord that I want to go to. I want to make sure that my hand is set up as well as it can be to get to the chord I'm going to, and then get from that chord to the next chord that I'm going to. And that all depends on the song that you're playing. So it's good to have some different ideas of different ways of playing all of these different chords. With G, there is a nice handy shortcut that also gives us that punchy feel. Remember how when we were playing the C and we were doing that all downstroke pattern like that, we can apply the same idea to this G chord. So here I'm just turning this into a 1-finger chord. I'm just holding my pointer finger on the 2nd fret of the C string, and I'll be using my ring finger to go to the 4th fret, and I'm only going to be playing these 2 strings. I'm only going to be playing my G, which will be open, and my C string, which I'll be going back and forth between 2nd fret and 4th fret. That's still going to give us our shuffle effect. We're still going to get that same movement. It's just going to be a lot, a lot punchier, a lot more direct. There will be a lot fewer notes. Well, 2 fewer notes. But there's more focus on what's going on, what's changing. Maybe you like the sound of that, maybe you don't, and that's totally cool. It's another option. Next, we've got the D and the E chords. D, when we're usually playing D, we're playing it something like this. This is a good way to play this D chord, where I've got my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the G, my index finger is on the 2nd fret of the C, and my ring finger is on the 2nd fret of the E. My fingers all come down like that. Squish into that little fret. I could also play it straight across like this. First fret, or first finger, second finger, third finger, like that. If we wanted to move that note for the shuffle, it's this A note that I have to change to a B. And cramming all my fingers on there, and then having to cram my pinky in there too. Oof. It's a buzzy mess. So this is how I will play that D chord typically when I'm playing this shuffle feel. And I play this pretty heavily when I'm playing That'll Be the Day, my version of that song, where I'm not playing this A string at all, because the second fret of the G string is also an A, as long as I'm in tune. It sounds like I'm a little out. So what I'm doing is I'm going to completely ignore my A string. I'm going to bar the second fret with my index finger. Now, I might get a little bit of that second fret out of there. I try to relax my finger enough so that I'm not getting that note, but I'm still getting my other three notes. That's a tough one to pull off. I need to make sure that my thumb placement is just right on the back. I don't want my thumb wandering over behind the head of the ukulele or anything like that. That's just going to make things harder. So I really want to make sure that I'm pinching that fret to get a good bar going on there. And I'm also relying on my finger to bend just right, so I'm pushing down on the frets that I want to be held down and not pushing down too hard on the A string, like so. So that's really, really tricky, and I don't want you to be too concerned about that right now, because here I'm going to be mostly focused on these two strings. Again, just like when we were playing the G, or when we were doing our downstroke. And I was really focusing in on these two strings, the G and the C string. If I aim for just these two strings, whether I'm doing all downstrokes or I'm doing alternate strumming, where I'm strumming down and up, right? So I'm aiming for these two, knowing that I'm going to overshoot a little bit and accidentally hit some of these other strings. And you know what? If I do hit that A string sometimes and it is producing a note, that's okay. It doesn't matter. It's going to sound okay in the grand scheme of things. But now this is a much easier version of shuffling that D to manage than cramming fingers and trying to add that extra finger up there. It's just a lot of work. It does require you to practice your bar, but there's no harm in that. And likewise, the E chord, this opens us up because now I can play the E chord like this. It's a little bit less scary than having to do, some of those other versions of our E, which I don't even think sounds that fantastic anyway. Playing this one over here. Again, I'm ignoring the A string, or at least trying to ignore the A string. I'm on the 4th fret. Bounce around with those chords. Again, the great thing about bar chords is that you're getting a lot more than just the one chord you're practicing, right? I can then shuffle on any fret. And finally, we have our B flat chord, how to shuffle this B flat chord. And remember, with a bar chord like this, it is a movable shape, so we can, once we learn B flat, we've also learned B and C sharp and D over here and E flat and E and so forth and so on. So, this B flat shape, if you haven't played B flat, we've got first fret of the A and E strings. I'm playing that with my index finger. We've got second finger on the second fret of the C string, and third finger on the third fret of the G string. And the note that's changing is on the E string. So I'm going to be using my pinky finger to kind of squeeze in and play the third fret of the E string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's pretty cool. Little tricky to play. Again, we've got a lot of fingers going on there and cramped into a pretty small space, but it sounds pretty cool. And again, it gives you a lot of different chords now. So we've got chord charts for That'll Be the Day and Johnny Be Good. I just want to take a look at a little bit of That'll Be the Day, so we can kind of see what that D looks like in action, right? So the song starts off on an E7 chord. That'll be the day when you say goodbye, oh yeah, that'll be the day when you make me cry, oh you say you're gonna leave, but you know it's a lie, 'cause that'll be the day that I die. And here's a little Johnny Be Good. Deep down Louisiana, close to New Orleans, way back in the woods along the evergreens, stood a log cabin made of earth and wood, where lived a country boy named Johnny Be Good, who never ever learned to read or write so well, but he could play guitar just like a ringing bell. Go, 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 Johnny, go, 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 Johnny, go. So now you have some tools to start playing around and incorporating this shuffle feel into some songs that you don't know, or maybe it'll inspire you to tackle a new style that maybe you haven't tackled quite yet. So whether it be a bluesy feel or kind of a loping country song or something like that, there are a lot of options and a lot of possibilities, and this little instrument is a pretty versatile one, so it can handle just about any style. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, please let me know. Email me at tinyvillagemusic@gmail.com, or let me know what you'd like to learn next, whether it be another technique like this one. If there's a song that you've been dying to learn, definitely let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Stay well, stay healthy, and I will talk to you next time. Take care.